And Tim, one of the people who contributed so much to the ouster of Tom Telesco and Brandon Staley, whatever you think of that decision, pro or anti, was this week's Jonas Gray Memorial Player of the Week, who plays for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Somebody had to get a lot of yards in this game.
Yeah. No, so, for those that aren't familiar, or sorry, I'm sure many of you are, Jonas Gray Memorial Player of the Week, given out every week to a kind of no-name NFL player you've never heard of, comes out of the clear blue sky, does something amazing, plays an incredible game, and you think, who the hell is this dude? They're not the high draft picks. They're not the big names. They're not the high-priced free agents. These are the guys who are, filling NFL rosters and doing it great, maybe for 1 week, maybe for many. Unlike Jonas Gray, who, of course, ran for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns, was never heard from again. We hope all Jonas Gray Memorial Players of the Week go on to great things. This season, it's included a kicker. Last week, we've also had a running back who played kicker. Last season, we had this guy called Brock Purdy, who's obviously gone on to do nothing. So clearly, the Jonas Gray Memorial Teaspoon is helpful. Tyson Bagent got one this year, so we've had a good spread. But this is I believe this is a first in positional ranks for this week, Tim. This week's Jonas Gray Memorial Teaspoon
running back
going to John Jenkins, defensive tackle, Las Vegas Raiders. He is a 6'3", 327-pound man.
So small. He's a little
quite
guy.
Yeah. He's quite big. He's in his 11th NFL season. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Didn't know who this guy was until this week, where in the beatdown against the Chargers that ended up with people being fired, he scooped up an Eastern stick fumble and ran it in from 44 yards away for a touchdown. Everyone loves a big man touchdown. Not many things better than a defensive tackle touchdown, and not many things better than the big train going down the tracks. It wasn't like, I fell on the fumble in the end zone, or we ran a trick play at the 1 yard line.
Moving.
This was a 44-yard touchdown return by John Jenkins. It was a rumble. It was definitely a rumble. Yeah, so he's in his 11th NFL season, his 8th team stop. So he was drafted by New Orleans, actually in the 3rd round, so quite highly picked for a Jonas Gray player, but it was in 2013. He's then gone Saints, Seahawks, Bears, Giants, Dolphins, Bears again, Dolphins again. Now he's with the Raiders. So he has bounced around the proverbial
journeyman.
Exactly. He's actually, Tim, interestingly, and what I'm fairly sure is a rarity for NFL players, he's from Connecticut.
Hey.
So your state of residence. So he was born in Stamford and grew up in a place called Meridian, Connecticut. I don't know if you know where that is.
I do.
Okay, good. Any intel on Meridian? Does it produce a lot of NFL talent that we're not aware of?
No, it does not. I would say Connecticut, not a big football factory.
Yeah. He played defensive end, and he played some fullback at Francis T. Maloney High School in the Meridian area before John Jenkins made his way to community college, truly the path of the Jonas Gray player, right? Like these are guys who overcome obstacles, who have gone the road less traveled.
He went to
Well, funny you should say that. So he went to a community... No, not quite. But he went to a community college called Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College.
Yeah, baby.
Or MGCCC, as I'm sure they don't call themselves, who play in the Mississippi Association of Community Colleges Conference, or MAC, but with 3 Cs. So it's really good. Yes. And that conference includes East Mississippi Community College, who are the featured community college in the original couple of series of Last Chance U. Anyone out there who's never watched Last Chance U's Netflix series about junior college players, absolutely outstanding. Go watch it. Couple seasons in Scuba, Mississippi, which is where East Mississippi Community College is. Couple seasons in Kansas with a guy who turned out to be a complete piece of shit as the coach, but different story. And the basketball series are good too. So free plug, go watch it. Great show. But the Mississippi Gulf Coast Bulldogs, Tim, welcomed John Jenkins into their doors, and he played there for 2 years, including winning the MAC with 3 Cs title in 2010. So put some silverware in the old cupboard down there in Perkinston, Mississippi, which I'm assured is a place that they have a school in. He then earned a scholarship to the University of Georgia, where he played for 2 years as a rotational nose tackle. Given that he's a huge human being, that kind of makes sense. But not the only Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College player to make the pros in recent memory. So 2 guys for you, Tim, a little blast from the past. Terrence Cody. Do you remember Terrence Cody? Played for the Ravens. Defensive tackle as well, who was a mammoth human being taken in the 2nd round. Mount Cody, as he was known.
Mount Cody.
And the other one is one for the fantasy football players of a certain vintage out there. Vic Ballard, who played for the Colts for a bit and had a brief
Vic Ballard.
Jonas Gray-esque run where he was like the featured back for like 2 weeks. But anyway, just wanted to give a shout out to the Bulldogs for producing some NFL dudes. But John Jenkins went to the University of Georgia, failed to make it through his first preseason practice because it was so tough, and then had a tough start where he made the team and was then called out for blown assignments in his first 2 games by the coaches. The car alarm you can hear going off is on my street, by the way, if you're wondering, listening at home. He became a nose tackle, as I mentioned, in a rotational mode because nose tackles struggle to play every snap because they're huge. He did go to the combine, ran a 5'2" 40 and was 346 pounds. So that's moving for a big fella.
I'm not running a 5'2" 40, I'll tell you that.
30 bench presses of 225, if you're wondering. But he's slimmed down since then. And as I mentioned, was drafted in the 3rd round by the Saints, the 82nd pick, the 8th defensive tackle taken in 2013. And looking this up, the 2013 NFL draft him, I'm going to put this out there, might be the worst top 10 ever. I didn't do research into this. The first round in general for the 2013 draft is extremely hit and miss. I think it's generous. But this is the top 10. Are you ready for this?
I can't wait.
Eric Fisher, Chiefs, first overall pick. Couple of good years, a lot of meh years, never really
Not a 1 overall, no.
Jags picking 2nd. Luke Jokel, also offensive tackle. Nope. Dolphins were picking 3rd, traded up to the 3rd pick to draft Dion Jordan, who you may remember, big draft whiff, defensive end. Eagles pick 4th, definitely the pick of the bunch. Lane Johnson, great pick. Lions 5th. Pick? Oh, by far. I mean, Lane Johnson's a great player. He's a borderline Hall of Fame player. 5th pick was the Lions. Ezekiel Ziggy Ansah, the defensive end. Yeah. No, had a couple, again, a year or 2 was decent, but that's kind of it. 6th pick Browns, Barkevious Mingo. Possibly one of the best names in the history of the NFL, not a particularly good player. Jonathan Cooper went to the Cardinals, a guard, never did anything. Tavon Austin went to the Rams. Yes, this was that year. D. Milliner, cornerback, went to the Jets, who absolutely did nothing. And Chance Warmack was drafted by my Titans at 10, who was, again, not very good. So that's the top 10 of the 2013 NFL draft. Maybe one of those teams, Tim, should have picked John Jenkins. That's all I'm saying. Would have at least still been in the league, whereas the majority of those players are not. As I said,
a terrible top 10.
Awful. And as I said,
there's a podcast in there. We got to go.
The entire first round
in each draft
is horrendous. But yeah, the bad top 10. John Jenkins still in the league, unlike many of those much more highly fated players. This is, though, his first season as a starter. Started all 14 games for the Silver and Black this year, so good for him. And as I mentioned, scoring that 44-yard fumble return touchdown, which I enjoyed watching so much. One last note, Tim, not only was it great to watch on the broadcast and the highlights, but someone out there set it to the Chariots of Fire music, which is just outstanding viewing to watch a 330-pound man running to Vangelis's score from that film about sprinters. Very enjoyable. So John Jenkins, Jonas Gray Player of the Week. I'm sure you enjoyed watching him run that thing into the end zone from almost half of the field.
Listen, here's the story, right? Generally speaking, when big guys pick up fumbles and are running, they should wait for a little guy to run up behind them, and they should hand the ball to the little guy almost every time. I was actually watching, I'm trying to remember what game it was. There was another big man fumble scoop and attempt to score, but it was 65 yards, and there was no way.
Oh, it's not happening. No.
And he's run about 20 of those yards, and you could see there's this little DB just like, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball, as they're both getting tackled. It's like, no, buddy. Well, once Fat Man's got the ball, Fat Man ain't giving it to the little man. It never
the other good thing about the John Jenkins one is, like, you often see the big guys, like, they kind of blow a tire, right? They can't sprint for that far. He went straight through the tape, did not slow down. He did not get touched. And listen, we spoke about the Chargers kind of giving up. That was a play where I was like, really? No one managed to chase down a 330-pound defensive tackle?